It would help if I turn my microphone on, wouldn't it? Good start. Okay. Hi, everybody. We are live again today. This is day 2, or technically day 3, of building out this business in a live stream. For those of you that are new, that haven't seen this before, I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm not a live streamer at all. I set up this primarily to be accountable. By talking and putting this into the ether, it makes me think a lot more deeply about what I'm doing here, why. And you can follow this on LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitch. I don't really care. But bear with me as I figure all of this out. Building out this business. A couple of notes just before we get started here today. Because I'm new at this, I haven't yet figured out how to do this and have chat up on my screen. So at least for this week, it's going to be much more me just presenting and talking to myself. You're not going to get much interaction if you do happen to discover the screen. So if you chat, if you talk, and I don't respond, sorry. Next year. Hopefully not next year. That would be a long time. As next week, figure all of this out, building out this business resolved. Just before we get started, I'm getting a bunch of because I'm new at this. I haven't yet figured out how to do this and have chat. That is because my tab is playing audio. That was dumb. Okay, little teething problems. This is fun. This is the joy of building out something new. So, let's have a look. What are we going to do today? No? I'm still getting a little bit of kickback. So let's figure out what's happening there. Figure out. Let's just turn off my speakers. No, where is that audio coming from? It's definitely coming from a browser somewhere. Ah, there we go. Okay, hopefully I have muted everything now. This is good. This is learning. If anybody decides to set up a live stream and also doesn't know what they're doing on day 1, let me know and I'll be a couple of days ahead of you. So, a little bit of a recap of last time round and what we did. Let me just bring up this screen. So a reminder that what we're actually doing here, I have a site that I've built and I'm making changes to it live as we go. And then I will push those changes at the end of this live session. So all of this is public. You can see all of it. And what we're trying to do is build a business called Sociatall, working title, might change in the future, who are really there to help charities. Particularly in England and Wales. And the reason that I wanted to do this is I've spent a lot of my life helping large companies and people with a lot of money continue to gather resources. I didn't want to do that anymore, so my goal now is to help as many people as I can get healthy, get connected, and get capable in a way that I can be proud of. And one of the ways that I am doing that is I'm trying to build a business to help small charities to grow, to do more of what they do, right? Because they're really the ones doing a lot of work to help people out. So last time round, if you missed it, we were working on challenge development. And so I had said, look, I've got a bunch of facts in here, but I hadn't referenced them. So rather than you having to trust me, I have now referenced those, so that is all sorted. I do still need to clear this up, so this is going to be a task for me for this week in the background. I need to do a bunch of research to see if I can actually put any realistic numbers to this. So what I'm going to do, if I can, great, I'm going to link them in the same way that I have here, so that this is thoroughly and properly researched challenge. If I can't, I'm going to change this to be something like the assumed impact. Or what I'll do as I go through customer development, I'll start to add quotes in here. But I think we left off last time saying, look, we've got a really, really clear challenge now. Small charities cannot invest in digital tools. We then went through the diagnosis and we were looking at things like, why is it that small charities can't invest in these tools? We had a number of different reasons. I'm not going to go through them again. Have a look at the last live stream if you'd like to know more. But we also talked about some of the challenges for software providers, right? It's not easy to just be able to say, hey, charities have this really incredible, modern, new, easy-to-use software completely for free with no charge and easy setup and and all the rest. So there are a lot of challenges in solving this issue for charities and, in fact, for software providers. So what we're going to do today is work on a provocation. Now, I think I may have said this in the last live stream, but I have to give credit to a group of folks called, what were they called? The Venture Punks. Don't know how I forgot that name. And the Venture Punks ran a short course that I was on, and it's for really, really incredible founders. They founded 23, 24 companies between them, a lot of them doing really, really well. And one of the things that they pushed early on in the course was the thing that they called the punk provocation. So I've shamelessly lifted these 4 titles, and I probably missed some, and I'm going to absolutely butcher the way that I'm meant to do this. But I really like this, and the idea is that you're taking what you've identified as the challenge, and some of the key issues within that challenge, and you're really thinking about what is it that we're trying to do here? What are we trying to change in a meaningful way? Right, before we get onto the idea, before we talk to our customers, what's the goal? Right, how might we? The second thing that we're trying to do is ascertain, well, who are we doing this for? At the start, when you've got an idea or you've got a challenge, it can be really tempting just to say, I want to solve this for everybody, or I want to solve this for, in my case, charities. And whilst that's good, it does have an impact later on your product development, on your go-to-market, and more importantly, early on, it has a big impact on your customer development, because if you don't know who you are building for, how are you going to choose who to talk to? So today, I'm hoping that we'll go through a little bit of this section, a little bit of the 4, and I'm hoping that we, I can then use some of this diagnosis to say, okay, here's how. Right, this is the big goal for these people. This is what I really want to think about, right, and make meaningful. And then so that is, I guess, the end point, right? What's the outcome of all this work? What's the bigger purpose? What's the intent? Ideally tied to these people. So it's a very simple structure. I've done this a couple of times, and I found it extraordinarily difficult to articulate what feels quite complex and grubby and big and miserable to me down into these little words. So I'm going to try to do that today, but I cannot promise that I will get there. And so the other thing that I've done, since I've done these live streams, everything I've done has sort of been, we've been building live, but you've just seen this site. I'm hoping, if I get this right, that you can now see what I'm doing as well. So as well as building this, I am hard coding pretty much everything. So what I'm going to hope to do for those nerds of you out there, I'm going to show you what I'm doing, how I'm building this, what I'm putting together, what I'm using. I may do a separate stream on this to talk about the tech stack that I'm using. It's very, very simple. I'm editing in VS Code. I use SvelteKit, Tailwind, and I'm using something called Skeleton to sort of put all of this together and make it easier for me to develop. And then I'm pushing it all live with a service called Vercel. So they're sort of my 4 main things that I'm using. And it's because I'm lazy and just a hobby coder, and this makes it slightly easier for me to do things. So hopefully today we'll be switching through these 2 things. Okay, so let's start to think this through live. And we're going to go on today till about 11:30. I have no idea how far we're going to get, but I'm going to try and get this provocation either done or close to done, so that beyond today, we can then really start working on customer development, because I think that's just going to be a little bit more easy. Okay, so let's come back. Okay, so how might we... In fact, I'm not even going to start with that. I'm going to start with 4, because this is the bit that I've traditionally struggled with a little bit more. So let's go back and think about who we want to help. So, in fact, let's come back to the site again. And to the challenge. So I think we know we've got a little bit of this already, right? Because we want to help English and Welsh charities. And just so you know, I have no sort of national pride. There's no deep, meaningful reason why I'm helping England and Wales. I think primarily it's because currently I live here. Two, I think the data that the government has and that the charity regulator has for England and Wales is extremely good. So I think a lot is public. It's much easier to see what some of the challenges are. I lived and worked in America for a while, but I think that in America there's a very different set of challenges, but also I think they're a little bit more further forward in how they give and how that economy works. Whereas while I'm living here and while the data's there and while this is a little bit behind where it needs to be, that's the area that I want to focus on the most. So if we're talking about English and Welsh charities, when I go to the diagnosis of what the problem is and who's suffering it. So one of the things that we were talking about before was it being hard to justify spending money. And I think this exists for all people, right? But when you think about the people who need to go out to everybody, to their stakeholders, to regulators, to the trustees of those charities, there are a number of people that I think have this problem. Trustees really have to justify it. Because the trustees are going to set the direction and what happens next with the charity. They won't necessarily execute, and they'll rely heavily on the CEO's vision to drive that and to build that and to make that happen. And then, of course, the actual people who do the real work, without whom none of this would happen at all. The employees and the volunteers and everybody else. But the trustees have an ethical and legal and regulatory responsibility to make sure that the charity is spending money in the right way. So, I think there are a number of different ways that I could think about this challenge. And I may come back and change this in the future. I could come at it from an operational perspective, right? So I could say, staff are really overwhelmed, and this is the same for every small business, right? There's always more to do than you have the time to do, and that is extraordinarily stressful, extraordinarily annoying. And so I think when it comes to product, we really want to build the product, actually not for the leadership, but I want to build the product for the people doing the work. That's the most important thing for me, is that small charities have so many just incredible experienced, passionate people in them who are getting paid like often nothing and often very little. And they're really the people at the end of this who I want to help. I want them to feel like every single moment that they're spending on the charity makes a real difference in people's lives. That's actually the end goal of this. So I might keep that in mind underneath my "so that." In fact, that's probably where that lives, so I'll come back to that. They're not going to be able to do that unless the organization at a higher level has the strategy and the financial plan to be able to either invest in digital tools or say these are the tools that we want to use. And unless you've built in some of those fundamentals, foundational things sort of early in your charity. So I think what I'm probably building this for trustees and CEOs of small charities, that is charities whose current income is under 1 million per year. We've covered this in the challenge. You can go and read up on that if you want. In England and Wales. So that feels about right. So let's switch and start to build that in. And then I will have a quick look across my streaming channels to see if there is any chat after I've done this, but I would be shocked if anybody is even watching at 10:30 on a Tuesday morning. I hope you're all busy enough to not listen to me witter. Okay, so for who are we doing this for? So we said trustees and CEOs. Well, let's say I'm not sure actually if everybody is going to be a CEO. I haven't done the work yet to really segment, but let's use CEOs for a while. I'll come back to that later. Trustees and CEOs of small, and we're going to say sub 1 million. I'll come back to that one. Sort that out later. Trustees and CEOs of small registered charities. I'm going to capitalize this because I think that's important. In England and Wales. So you can see here, like, this is, rather than me just saying, oh, charities, I'm being quite specific about the who, the what, and the where. And this is going to have just so many downstream effects on the business, the model, the regulation, what we do with it. In some ways, this is going to narrow the focus, right? It might be that what we build when we say, oh, we'd love to expand and go into different countries and do different things, we may be able to replicate it. We might not. I think today, I'm not worried about making money from this. This is not why I'm doing this. This isn't a classic business that I'm going to set up and I want to be an entrepreneur, get loads of investment, and then exit with millions of pounds. That's just not who I am. I've been poor and then I've had money and now I'm poor again. And I'm much happier when I'm doing things for people than when I'm just buying stuff that I don't need. So I'm okay with this being small and purposeful as long as it's clear what we're doing. So I think at the moment that's who we're going to help. We're going to help trustees and CEOs of small registered charities in England and Wales. I'm happy with that. So we are going to save that. And hopefully, through the power of magic, need to get better at switching these. Hooray! So for trustees and CEOs of small registered charities in England and Wales. So let's cover that next. Oh, in fact, let me just check to see if I've got any chat going on. So I have no idea how to do this in LinkedIn. Nope, can't see anything. YouTube doesn't look like I have any people watching on YouTube, so that is good. Twitch, it says I've got one viewer, but I feel like that's probably just me. And Kick, no one. Okay, great. That makes it easier. Makes it much easier to deal with chat when you have no people chatting to you. Cool. So, yeah, current viewers one on LinkedIn as well. Looks like just me. Good. So let's go back to. Well, let's go back to this. So our provocation. So we talked about that a little bit, and when I came back to this, it's really, my desire is to see beneficiaries get as much help as they can. So if I come back to the challenge or the impact, I think there are a couple of bits in here, right? I think I want charities to be able to connect with more donors and beneficiaries to get critical support they need. I feel like that's a big piece of this, right? Like we all need help. The more people that we can connect to give and get that help, I think the better. So I quite like, I'd love to use this within there. And I said in the last live stream, this last sentence, right? The implication is a little markety. I think I'm over egging this, so I don't want to use this in the provocation yet. I don't think there's anything in. Yeah, this is still what I care about, right? This is the ultimate need, so I'm going to have that at the end. And then in our diagnosis, no, I think all of this stuff, right? The foundational, the strategic, and the financial. The only reason that that exists is so that we can deliver service, right? It's so that we can connect with each other and help each other. So that's really, I think, what I want to focus on. And so I think overwhelmed with daily tasks. So this is all just time, right? People in charities just have no time. They get bogged down over time with operational, scrappy, and very bitty tasks. And I find that really frustrating when they have so much that they want to be able to give. So I really, really want to factor that in to my so that. This is where I wish I was actually a little bit more of a marketer, because I'm having to try and find the words. So let's switch back. Let's have a crack. So I said that I wanted to bring in the critical support that they need. So let's bring that in. So so that, let's say as many people as possible receive critical support that they need to live full and contented lives. This gets a little bit into my beliefs, my personal beliefs in life, but I'm very experience based, and so a full life for me is living your life with as many experiences and positives, and it might not all be positives, right? Experiences can be negative at all, right? But to get to the end of it and feel like, yeah, you know what, I've lived, I've done what I set out to do. I've battled through fear. I've done all of these things, right? But I want to have the health, capability, and connection to be able to live that full life. And I think out of a sort of a full life comes a sense of contentment. I'm not a big believer in always being happy. I don't think. I mean, first of all, you can't always be happy. And secondly, I think that if you are only happy, you miss out on a lot of the experience of life. But I think you can be, over time, you can develop a sense of contentment. Some people get that very, very early and they don't need anything. I remember a video I watched a while ago of a guy saying, hey, you know what? I've got a full belly. I'm good. Like, I would love to have that attitude. It's something I'm working on developing myself. But this is really what I mean, right? So I want as many people as possible, so that as many people as possible receive the critical support they need to live full and contented life. That is really what I want. And so maybe this is my so that. And actually, when I come to in a way that, where this is maybe where I want to support the operators. So this is the employees and volunteers. So in a way that frees up the time, releases the time, unburdens. Oh, I like the word unburdens. In a way that unburdens charity employees and volunteers from having to spend time on menial, repetitive, and non-value add activity. In a way that unburdens charity employees and in a way that unburdens charity employees and volunteers from the time still don't like this. There's something not quite right with this. In a way that unburdens charity employees and volunteers from menial, repetitive, and non-value activity, so they can more time on meaningful value. Oh, this is a horrible sentence, but I'll come back to that one. But I think it gets across the sentiment, I suppose, of what I want to do. So, how might we do something for trustees and CEOs of small registered charities in England and Wales in a way that unburdens their employees and volunteers from having to carry out menial, repetitive, and non-value add activity? Need to move this so that they can all spend more time on providing meaningful value and critical support to as many people as possible. And I'm going to add one here. H1 in pursuit of helping as many people as possible live a full and contented life. Yeah, that seems better, right? Because I think this for me is now really important to the idea of this, because I want all the people who are helping people to have full and contented lives. I want the people who are making themselves accountable and who put themselves under immense pressure and accountability for everybody else to have full and contented lives. And I want everybody else to have that as well. And, I think one of the really interesting things, there's always this assumption that you have people who work in charities and people who need help. Like, quite often they're the same persons. Right? So we all need help in living a full and contented life. We can all benefit from the services that charities provide. And I think charities for me are a really good model of of people who just want to help people. So that's why I'm in this space. So I think that feels good. Okay, so let's have a look at that. So how might we do something for trustees and CEOs of small registered charities in England and Wales in a way that unburdens their employees and volunteers from having to carry out menial, repetitive, and non-value add activity, so they can all spend time on providing meaningful activity. They can spend much more time on meaningful activity providing meaningful and critical support to as many people as possible in pursuit of helping as many people as possible. There's repetition. They can spend much more time on providing meaningful and critical support in the pursuit of helping as many people as possible live full and intended life. Okay, I think we are getting somewhere in this provocation. And so if I just switch back again, because I think there was one thing that we did in the last live stream which I haven't covered yet. Let's see if I remember how to switch. There we go. Getting better at this. So last time as we were going through this and going through the diagnosis, we were talking a lot about the need to make things much easier, and for things to be as cheap as free, right? And so we were starting to talk about the values and the ethics and the driving force behind Sociatall and what it will become and what it's intending to do. So what I've done in idea development is just started to jot down these ethics and values. So some of these are going to be for the product. Some of them should be for the product and the business model. They're going to be a little bit of everything. So the provocation, in theory, should help shape some of these ethics and values as well. And so, the reason that I'm doing this, in fact, sorry, I do have a tendency to do this. As I'm talking, I will have more ideas. One of the things that I want to add to ethics, let me just quickly do this. Idea, ethics. I want to add in, probably at the top, highest levels of accountability and transparency. I mean, that seems pretty obvious. So one of the things that I'll need to do, in fact, I'll write this down now. Maybe we do this when we get to ideas, but I'll add them as we go. I need to start determining more ethics and values. But I think I need to know what I mean by ethics and values as well. But we're not there yet. Okay, so coming back to our provocation, where are we now? We're doing all right. We've done this for half an hour. This live stream might end early today because I don't really want to go on to customer development, but maybe I can talk a little bit about it at the end of the stream. So where did we get to? Okay. So how might we do something for trustees and CEOs of small registered charities in England and Wales in a way that unburdens their employees and volunteers from having to carry out menial, repetitive, non-value-add activity, so that they can spend more time providing meaningful and critical support in the pursuit of helping as many people as possible live full and contented lives. I might add a little bit of me in here, I think. Where are we? We're back in the challenge. So I'm going to add in full and contented lives. I liked that originally, and now I really don't like it. Helping as many people to live healthy, because I think that ties into physical and mental health. Healthy, connected, healthy, capable, and connected lives. I think I'm going to move away from contented and full because I've done some work on this myself in the past, and what I've seen is that people who are healthy physically and mentally, who have over time built up a lot of capabilities in themselves, right? Who have a lot of ability to do things, and then who are deeply connected to others who have very different set of skills, they generally have full and contented lives, right? So for me, that sort of health, capability, and connection is what I really am most personally passionate about, because I think they're very hard to argue with, and it's got nothing to do with money or finances or whatever else, but it does indicate having security and warmth and food and water and having your social groups and connections and ties and being able to add value back into the world. So I kind of like that better. So we're going to call this in the pursuit of helping as many people as possible live healthy, capable, and connected lives, because that's really what I want to do. So Okay, let's move on to how might we. And I always struggle with this. I don't know why I find this such a struggle to articulate, but I do. So let's have a think about this. What are some things? Maybe if I just thought dump at this point, that'll help flesh out what this is. So how might we? I just want to build a software. I think there are two things that we need to do. Right, we need to create a business model because I think the existing ways that software companies typically come to life, the way that they are structured, both legally and from a strategy point and everything else, I don't think that works to solve this problem. And this is based on sort of my experience of working with and in just innumerable software companies. I think the model isn't conducive. And I think that I'm going to need to do two things here. One is to create great product. That goes without saying. But I think the way that the business model is set up, and the way that we operate, and the people that I work with, and the partnerships, and really everything, that's going to be the thing that I think provides this. So I feel like there are two. So we've got in here create a business model. It just sucks as a sentence. I don't like this in how might we, but I think that's an important piece to it. And also, I guess, yeah, no, maybe that does make sense because I'm doing this for trustees and CEOs, right? And I think this is so important. We're going to make a product, of course, for employees and volunteers, and maybe for them as well. So create a. This is where, as well, if I go back to some of the advice we got from Venture Punks, it was be specific. And specificity is something that I've always struggled with. So, I wonder, part of me wonders whether this might be a good job for AI. You know what I've just realized as well? I wonder why that's not updating. Huh. Okay, so this is fun. I've just noticed that although you are seeing my VS Code screen, you haven't seen any of the updates that I've made. I have a feeling that's probably because of the way that security works when coding. So I'm going to have to look that up. So if you've been very confused as to what the hell I've been talking about all this time, that's good. That's another teething problem. So, okay, well, that didn't work, did it? All right, so let's come back to this. So, how might we create a business model for trustees and CEOs of small registered charities? What about how might we create a free and modular now how might we create a business model which is capable of providing free and modular purpose-built free and modular, by the way, is I think a lot of charities will be at different stages in their different digital development. So to say, hey, just take on this one platform, it's too much change. I want to make it easy for them to say, I'm going to take this bit, because I can, and it's easy and it's quick and it's free. But over time, if they choose to take other bits or port other bits across, they can just switch. I think there's just so many switching costs and change costs to changing technology. I think a lot of the time, even if you see a solution that's better, the idea of figuring it all out is tough. So I think it's got to be modular. So and that's integral as well. So how might we create a business model which is capable of providing free, modular, and built for purpose software? In perpetuity. Free in perpetuity. Free, modular, built for purpose software. So what I mean by this is you don't pay for it. And I also mean this from an open source perspective, I think, as well. I think the best innovation happens when we share knowledge with each other and we let people change things. So I think this is free both from a financial perspective and from a free Libra software perspective. Can we open source it? Can we enable people to self-host it but run it on cloud for free as well? We make it super modular. And then built for purpose is, I don't want to build this for everybody. But this is very specifically for trustees and CEOs of small registered charities in England and Wales. I think that's it. So if I save this, and you're not going to see it, so my brain is struggling now. This is the problem with words, it really takes it out of me. Okay, so we have, I think, the start of our provocation. So how might we create a business which is capable of providing free, modular, and built-for-purpose software for trustees and CEOs of small registered charities in England and Wales in a way that unburdens their employees and volunteers from having to carry out menial, repetitive, non-value-add activity, so that they can spend more time providing meaningful and critical support in pursuit of helping as many people as possible to live healthy, capable, and connected lives? That feels good for me. There's one thing in this menial, repetitive, and non-value add. What is it that's griping me? What is it that's frustrating me? I think that's maybe part of this. You can spend much more time providing meaningful and critical support. Maybe it's that, right? Like, I think the way that I phrase this at the moment is primarily for the delivery of services, but there's so much more going on than that from a comms, marketing, fundraising, campaigns perspective, right? So it's not. Am I satisfied with that? Unburdens their employees and volunteers from having to carry out menial, repetitive, and non-value-add activity. They can spend much more time providing meaningful and critical support. I think that actually, no, that's meaningful and critical support. You know what? I think that's right. Because even when I think about growth, so let's say you're writing a grant, what you're doing is you're for a grant proposal, you're carrying something out to obtain something that allows you to provide that support. So you are supporting. I think that's okay. I'll go away and think about this and maybe run this through a couple of LLMs to see if we can tidy some of these up. But actually, I think this is okay. So that's good. So in the last 2 days, or at least 2 days of streaming, I think we've done a pretty good job, right? We've developed a challenge, and we've articulated precisely what this is, what the numbers are, why it's important. We've taken a look at what are the barriers or the problems or the things that are driving those challenges within those organizations. And bear in mind, this is all super high level at the moment. So it's not deep, it's not in the weeds. And then we have built a provocation. So as we go through customer development, competitive research, ideas, and our strategy, this is what we want to bear in mind. So tasks for me, what I need to do is push this all live to the live website. I need to do final work to tidy this up and improve this last section and add references if I can. I do have a little bit that I want to do still on barriers for software providers, because we covered last time the financial, but I don't actually have that much in foundational, strategic, or operational. I'd be very surprised if that changes anything in my provocation, but maybe it will. But we'll tidy all of this up and get this looking really nice. And as I said, I'll run this through a couple of LLMs to see if we can improve it. But that's good. So this gives us a really good baseline for determining what it is that we're trying to do, why, right? What's the purpose that we can frequently come back to? So I find that this is what I care about. This might be what I'm doing, and this is going to be really, really hard. And I'm going to be very disheartened a lot of times, and I'll get a lot of failures. But I believe in solving this problem, and I want to solve this problem. So that'll help. Now, if you find yourself doing a provocation thinking, yeah, I don't really care about this, it might still be a great idea. It might just not be the right idea for you. So find somebody that cares and give them everything that you've got. Okay, I think that's fine. Maybe at one point, the tech person in me wants to add comments to this and allow people to agree or disagree on it. What I might do in the future is move this to not just a hard-coded website, but something that people can make suggestions and edits and all sorts to. But I still want it to be public. Well, fine. That's a problem for another day. I don't need to worry about that now. And that's one of the hardest things I've found personally in doing all of this stuff is so easy to get distracted. So one of the reasons that I'm doing these live streams is to keep me honest, keep me focused. So with the few minutes that we've got left, I'm not going to run this until 11:30 today. Let's talk a little bit about customer development. So we've got a really good sense of our challenge, right? We know what it is that we're trying to do. We might not be right. It might not be the right challenge, but that's a good start. I think the second thing that we need to do is really, really deeply understand our customers. And this is, again, before you get onto ideas, before you go and look at your strategy, before you spend hours designing a logo that isn't going to achieve anything, right? If we don't understand very deeply who our customers are, what drives them, the mechanics of why those roles even exist, we're going to struggle because we don't understand our audience. Now, if you work in the field and have worked in the field for a long time, the chances are that you will have that sort of deeply ingrained in your mind. Or if you're creating a consumer product, you might just say, well, hey, this is simple. It is people like me. You might not need all the segmentation, the roles, everything else, right? I'm doing a B2B project here, but you might not need all the detail. So segmentation for me is more about sort of big C customer. How do we segment the market so that in the future, as you're building out your strategy, do different parts of the market operate in very different ways? So would in my case, a community interest company work very, very differently to a different type of charity in terms of what they care about, what they're doing. So it's really important that I have a good segmentation understanding from different types of customers. And this feeds into your go-to-market, it feeds into your strategy, but it's an important thing to do. The next piece will then be your roles. So the roles in a B2B context is really understanding in each of those segments who are the key players, what are the titles, why do those particular roles exist, what are they trying to achieve, at least on paper, right? That the reality is often quite different. You might have 5 people who have the same job title, all of whom have completely different roles, but trying to get to the crux of what does good look like, what does healthy look like, what's the difference between how a CEO needs to act in a 2-person just got started charity versus a 15-person 500 grand charity. So understanding those roles is important. And then the most critical part is getting out and really interviewing as much as you can, as many people as possible. Now, I've done this a little bit topsy-turvy because before I started to live stream, I've done a bunch of interviews. So I'm going to build out and articulate what I've learned from those interviews in future live streams. But I still need to do more. And I don't think you're ever done either. You know, if you're really serious, you should be talking to people every single week, ideally every single day, right, to develop your understanding. Now, it might be that the questions that you ask are different. It might be that you're thinking about the business model one day, the product another day, the features another day, but having constant contact with the market that you're there to serve is absolutely imperative. So one of the things I might need to do as we get to interview insights is determine how I can do that. I've got some interviews lined up, and I probably don't have enough. So that's another task I think that I'll need to do, is just keep that keep the interview pipeline filled. Just writing this down for myself. Okay. And then what we're going to do out of this segmentation, roles, and interview insights, we're really going to start to understand our personas. And so this is it's really helpful, because rather than us just saying, oh, we are building for trustees, CEOs, employees, and volunteers. Cool. Like, what does that mean? Who are these people? What do they care about? What are their dreams, their passions, their fears? Not so that we can manipulate, but so that we can go out authentically and say, hey, look, we're not just trying to sell software. What I'm trying to do is create something genuinely to help you. P.S. It helps that I want to give it away for free, but I think that's the goal here. So we'll come on to personas, explain what they are, show a few examples before building them out, I think, in future live streams. And so what that's going to do, once you've got a really, really good sense of what the challenge is, you've evolved that and really put together, who's involved in all of this. And then you've done some research on you know what? I don't even like competitive research. I think this is a hangover in my own mind from working in a private company and seeing other private companies as my competition, right? Because and it makes a lot of sense in that scenario, because your assumption is there are a finite number of resources which I'm able to extract from or mine from this market, right? So if you imagine the market of, let's just say charities, right? And there's X amount of money in there, and you've got an amount of money that you think goes and gets spent on technology, and you say, okay, there are, I don't know, £1 billion a year gets spent on technology in these organizations. That's your resource, right? That's your lithium ore underneath the ground, and you're going to go ahead and mine that. But the problem is everyone else is doing that at the same time, and there's not necessarily enough to go around. So you have competition, right? It's competitive research because you've got competition for resources. I think in this case, I am not competing for resources, right? Like, I don't want to be the only organization solving all the problems. That's not the goal. The goal is to create something that helps. And so maybe this is not competitive research. Maybe this is, I don't want to say market research because that's too broad. Maybe I'll just call this vendor research. I think that's probably better because let's have a look. So let's go. Yeah, I like vendor research, and I'll change the icon. I'll change this after the call because I don't need to do that now. But I think understanding the other people who are trying to solve the same problems is probably a more honest and ethical approach to doing this, right? Because the other challenges with this, and I'm going to really need to think about how I do this. Let's say I'm successful and I create software that solves a bunch of problems and creates a positive impact on people's lives. The risk is putting others out of business or making sure that they have to drop employees. And so I'm actually causing some of the problem that I'm trying to solve. So I'm going to change this to vendor research. And I think, one of the things that I'll have to do, maybe an idea development, is figure out, or maybe have as part of my ethics, how can I do as little damage as possible to other organizations? And actually, I don't care about the organizations. I don't care about the business. I care about the people. So that'll be the lens that I'm going to take is, how do I build this authentically, transparency, and in a way that does as little as possible damage to everybody else. So I'll give that some thought. That requires probably a little bit of meditation and thinking. And this is why I'm doing this in public, right, guys? Like, if you see this, if you see anything at all that you're like, Dan, this is bullshit, you don't know what you're talking about, or this sounds like you're convincing yourself, but it's not reality. Like, I'd love to hear that. Give me some challenge. That's going to be important for me. Okay, I think with that said, we are most likely done for today. This was quite a lot. So I'm going to finish this up now and end. Thank you all for watching, for being here with me today. I'm going to end these one by one. So let's have a look at which of the streams have caught up the most. I can see myself spinning a pen on YouTube. So goodbye, YouTube. Thank you for being with me. Love you all. That is YouTube gone. I can see that Twitch is exactly the same. Love you, Twitch.